Hi, it's Don McLaughlin from Falcon Discovery here at LegalTech 2012. I'm delighted and pleased to introduce Conor Crowley. Conor, good to have you with us.
Hi Don, how are you doing?
Good. Tell us a little bit about your experience and what you're currently up to.
I have a law practice that advises corporations and some other law firms on electronic discovery, information governance, data privacy.
Okay, great. And what's been your experience in the industry? I know you've had a deep involvement with Sedona and some of the other associations. If you speak to that a little bit.
Sure, I'm the vice chair of the Sedona Conference Working Group 1. I sit on a number of other advisory boards. I think they serve an incredibly useful function in terms of educating both the profession and the judiciary, and I think both are areas that there's still, surprisingly, in 2012, a lot of education still needed.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about in looking back the last several years and thinking about how the process has been managed by courts and legal practitioners. What do you think about the process has actually improved, even though there are continuing challenges?
I think there's a greater appreciation of the complexity of e-discovery issues. I think there was a time when people saw e-discovery as a poor stepchild to the practice of law, to litigation. I think there has been a deepening understanding of the complexity of the issues that it raises and the need to address those early in a case so that through repeated, substantive meet and confers, many of the issues that used to rise to the level of disputes are now addressed up front.
And what do you think is responsible for that? Is it work on the court side of the bench, or has it been outside counsel? What's your view on that?
A number of different things. I think the judiciary has gotten more educated, so they're more on top of these things now. I think there has been tremendous cost pressure from corporations, and one way to drive down costs is, of course, to resolve disputes without resorting to motions practice, to agree, to stipulate up front. So I think there's been a tremendous pressure from corporations on their outside law firms. There's also been an increased level of education amongst outside counsel that they're now capable of actually addressing these issues, where 5 years ago perhaps they were not.
Well, from the court's perspective, what things do you think the courts can continue to do to improve the process? Things that come to mind, recent developments, the model order for patent cases, the Federal Circuit endorsed. What's your perspective on what the courts are doing and can continue to do?
I think model orders are a fantastic idea. I think that obviously there's going to need to be some way to modify them and customize them based on the type of cases. They're generally more useful for large, complex litigation than for smaller cases. But I think model orders are one of the best things the courts can do. There's always a continuing cry for more judicial involvement in e-discovery, but many judges are simply overwhelmed. And many courts turn to one or two particular judges to help with e-discovery issues, and those judges then have to try to deal with them across a wide range of cases. So I think model orders and encouraging the parties to meet early and often are probably the best things that the court can do.
And would you say that's the number one thing for counsel and practitioners as a whole, is that early involvement and trying to reach across the aisle, if you will?
Absolutely. Because e-discovery can be incredibly complex, if you don't cross the T's and dot the I's early on, you may inadvertently have disputes later that could have been resolved if people actually specified what they meant and sat down and agreed on how the process would work.
You know, we're heading into 2012 here, and I wonder what emerging trends are you picking up on and seeing with respect to how technology plays a role in e-discovery and information governance generally?
I think that we're going to see greater and greater acceptance of a technology-assisted review. The volume of information is simply too large. The cost of lawyers is simply too much to actually sit down and review all that information, if it were even possible. So I think we're going to see greater adoption by that. I think we're going to see some decisions this year that actually explicitly endorse that. We've had a couple, but I think we need more to actually get over that hump. And some of the software is also useful for categorizing information, because many of the problems I think that arise in e-discovery with respect to volume stem from a failure to eliminate information early in the process and manage information throughout its life cycle so that you're minimizing your retention. I think that there's software coming out now that's going to make that easier to do.
You know, that area of information governance and how technology can help classify enormous volumes of electronically stored information. Is that one of the technologies you'd like to learn more about and look into at LegalTech 2012?
Absolutely. We've had a tremendous increase in the number of offerings, but what's also interesting that there's a small number of players that actually now have incredibly effective software, and those are the people I'll be visiting with here.
Terrific. Conor, it's a pleasure talking with you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Don.